Hey everybody, it's Amanda.
Rick.
And it's time for our evening Bible study. And I got the notification.
So did I.
Did you?
Yes.
See, you hadn't been getting it lately, so I was just thinking that maybe that, wasn't cooperating with you. So I'm glad to know that YouTube's back in line.
No, I dropped my phone 3 times last night during the live event.
You feel like that did it?
I think it fixed it.
Was it?
Sometimes if something's not working, you just have to give it a good kick. And it fixes everything. So I think that's what happened with my phone.
Not going there.
Anyway, we are in chapter 9 of 1 Corinthians. Last night during the Bible study, there was a time that we had about 20 on the live chat.
A little over even.
Tonight, I see we have 0.
Just got started.
we got a ways to go.
I'm going to share the links. And they're all 20 coming. I sense it.
Yeah.
They just don't know we're here yet because they're not getting those YouTube notifications.
Y'all are eating dinner. I know it.
I know it is a little early.
Grab a biscuit and hit go. Hit start. Anyhow, we're trucking right along through 1 Corinthians.
We are now. Chapter 7 was a little bit.
Chapter 9. I'm trying to draw.
Yeah, we're on 9 tonight, but I'm saying when we were in chapter 7, that was a little bit slow. 16
chapters in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians.
Really? I thought there was 20 something. I didn't realize we were scooting.
Well, maybe you're adding for 2 Corinthians too. I mean, if you add both books together, we got a ways to go.
That's true. Maybe that's what it is. Okay. I'm finishing up the links here. And Melissa is here. Hello. She is washing dishes, making dinner. See, you're right. Everybody's making dinner because we are super early tonight. So that is the case. Anyway, all right. Let me get this all sorted out, and we are all set. Okay. So, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and I'm gonna yawn. Sorry. Okay. Last night, 1 Corinthians 8, we talked about food that was sacrificed to idols and how the believers were free to eat it. But if it was going to be a hindrance to their brother, then they were told that they should abstain from it rather than, because then they would be guilty of hindering their brother. And so chapter 9 is essentially Paul talking about his apostleship and kind of talking about how he has set an example of someone who has given up things for the benefit of others. As an apostle, there are a lot of things that he has a right to, but he has chosen not to do those things so that he could focus more on others and what they need. And he has this just long list of things that he's done without. And so it's kind of worded in kind of a weird way. And when you read chapter 9 separate from chapter 8, you might not see the connection between the two. And so that's why I want to tell you from the outset, that's what it's going about here. But he's going to tell you the value of it, the value of what it is when you abstain or stay away from things for the benefit of others, and how it's been worthwhile for him as an apostle. So with that being said, I'm going to read the whole chapter. It's like 27 verses, so it's a little lengthy, but not too bad. I mean, we've certainly read longer passages. But I'm going to go ahead and read it, and we'll talk about it. Ready? All right. Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Are not ye my work in the Lord? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you. For the seal of mine apostleship are ye in the Lord. Mine answer to them that do examine me is this: have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as well as other apostles, and as the brethren of the Lord and Cephas? Or I only and Barnabas, have not we power to forbear working? Why goeth a warfare any time at his charges? Who planteth a vineyard and eateth not of the fruit thereof? Or who feedeth the flock and eateth not of the milk of the flock? Say I these things as a man, or saith not the law the same also? For it is written in the law of Moses, Thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doth God take care for oxen? Or saith he it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he that ploweth should plow in hope, and that he that thresheth in hope should be partaker of this hope. If we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ. Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things live of the things of the temple, and they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar? Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. But I have used none of these things, neither have I written these things, that it should be so done unto me, for it were better for me to die than that any man should make my glorying void. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. For if I do this thing willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. What is my reward then? Verily, that when I preach the gospel, I make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I abuse not my power in the gospel. For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law is under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law is without the law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without the law. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker thereof with you. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight, not as one that beateth air, but I keep under my body and bring it unto subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Okay, so there's a lot in that section. And as I mentioned, the very first part talks about all of the rights that he has an apostle, things that he could do. Remember, just like yesterday, when we were talking about how they had the ability to eat the food that was sacrificed to idols, they had the right to do that. But if it was going to be a hindrance, they couldn't. So he names all of these things here that he has the ability to do. Like he starts, and you can even see when he starts in verse 1, he starts with a question. So you can see that it's kind of mid-thought, and that's why you have to take it as being part of chapter 8, right? So he's like, I'm an apostle. I'm free. I've seen Christ, right? You're my work in the Lord. And even if I wasn't an apostle to other people, certainly I would be to you, because I was the messenger that brought you the message of Christ, right? And he's like, so here's the thing. Don't I have the ability to just eat and drink and, do whatever I want? Can't I have a wife? Right? Can I have lady friends or whatever? He said, don't I and Barnabas, don't we have the power to stop working? We could just live off the gospel, right? It says, who goes to warfare with his charges, the idea that he's going to, the people who are going to war are going to be fed, right? Who's planting a vineyard, not eating the fruit thereof, who's feeding the flock and not having the milk. It's like, I'm out here doing this gospel work, and I have a right to have some kind of repayment for my work that I'm putting out here, right? And he's like, I'm not just saying this as a man, verse 8. He's like, this is even in the law. Moses said, you're not supposed to muzzle the mouth of the ox that's treading out the corn. And God's not just talking about taking care of the oxen, right? He's talking about man. Whoever is plowing in hope and threshing in hope, that they're going to be a partaker. We've sown spiritual things, so we could certainly reap some carnal things. And he starts talking about how people who are part of the temple, if they're ministering to God in the temple, they're going to be eating from the temple. They're partakers of what's in the temple because God ordained that. He hasn't even written them. and ask them for any of these things. And he says, it'd be better for me to die than someone should, I think the way he words it is, make my glorying void. He's like, I preach the gospel, but and necessity is sometimes laid on me. But I'm not preaching the gospel for that purpose. He's like, I'm preaching the gospel because, woe to me if I'm not preaching the gospel.
Mhm.
Right. He says, I do this thing willingly. I have a reward, but it's against my will. Like, I'm not seeking the reward. That's the Lord's reward, right? He says, so what's my reward then? That I preach the gospel and I make the gospel of Christ without charge, that I'm not abusing my power. He's not making it about money or any kind of payment. And then he starts emphasizing the fact that he's a servant to everyone, right? So this is again, going back to the idea that he's just setting this example that you can give up things for the benefit of other people, right? So he's like, so I've made myself a servant to everyone. And so when I'm with the Jews, I am going to be like the Jews, because he is in fact a Jew. He's like, I understand them. Just to the people who are under the law, I'm going to, come from that perspective that I can speak to them on their level. He's like, the people who are without the law or the Gentiles, I'm going to come at them that way because that's how they understand things. He's like, people are weak. I'm going to talk to them from that perspective. And he's like, I'm trying to be all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. I'm not trying to just stand from one perspective. I understand that everybody's coming from their different perspective. So then he gives them this whole speech about running this race to win. He's like, essentially saying, let's not be lazy about this thing. There's a race. Let's get busy. You want to go win the prize, get out there, strive. What you're racing for isn't a corruptible crown, but an incorruptible one. And he's like, I'm not running with uncertainty, and I'm not fighting like I'm boxing with the air. He's like, no, I mean, like, this is a genuine fight. This is a genuine race, and we got to get into it. And so then this last verse is what he's, again, referring back to chapter 8. He's like, so I keep my body under subjection, because the whole point was they were saying, this whole argument about eating the food that was sacrificed to idols, that they should be able to abstain, not have any meat at all, if necessary, as long as it's going to offend their brother. And he's like, listen, I'm keeping my body under subjection because I don't want to have preached the right thing to other people and then I myself do something wrong. So that's what he's saying here in this last part. So anyway, that's my short version. That's my little trimmed down overview. I'm going to pass it over to this man right here, the biblical scholar that he is, with the little pencil pen in the mouth.
I wish you'd
with
never
the coffee.
I wish you'd never say that again.
You just look so official. Maybe it's the glasses.
I've worn them for years.
You got glasses. You got a little gray hair. You look very professor.
Bad eyesight doesn't mean anything. It just means you bad eyesight. And white hair just means that you're reaching the end.
Not yet, babe.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. He's talking about being an apostle. Am I not an apostle? Question mark. Am I not free? Question mark. Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Question mark. Are not ye my work in the Lord? Question mark. That I have worked and labored for you, and are you not where you are in the Lord? Because the Lord has used what I have done in the ministry for you. Mm-hmm. And he's not boasting. Mm-hmm. He's simply just making a point. Okay, this is not a boast. Don't look at it like that. Paul is trying to make a point to him. The way I kind of get it is, here we have a lengthy letter, mm-hmm. And he's correcting a lot of things that they're doing in the church that's carnal, that's wrong, that's sinful. Mm-hmm. And, when somebody starts to talk to you in such a way, you kind of get to a point sometimes like, well, who are you? I'm just living my life. Now, who are you to come into this place and start telling me what I need to be doing differently? Mm-hmm. And Paul, under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, I think looks at him and says, hey, the Lord has used me in a great way in your life, and you better listen. You know, I'm not just somebody who wandered in here. Okay, I have been your apostle, your messenger to tell you the things of God, to tell you about your Creator and your Savior.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of goes from there after he kind of sets up this thing that you better listen what the Lord has for you. And he talks about, like you said, about things that he could. I mean, he is just a man after all, and he could be trying to just take care of his earthly needs. It talks about have we not power to eat and to drink? You brought up the fact that, like in verse 5, he's talking about getting married, and he could just do what men do,
Live a regular life.
But he kind of sets up the argument here is that, but that's not what we're here for. You know, I am an apostle. I'm a messenger being used of God to tell you what God wants you to know. So you better listen. I mean, I'm not just mumbling here. These aren't just, I had a dream last night and I just want to tell you about it. You know, this isn't some kind of like little ditty I cooked up. This is a message from God for you. Okay, so listen. And I am just a guy after all. I could be interested in all these little regular guy things, like getting married. What are we going to have tonight for dinner? You know, that kind of thing. But
fried chicken.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in any of that because something's more important. You know, the ministry, the glory of God, reaching souls for Christ. If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we? Forgive me. Rather, nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer or endure all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ.
Where are you at?
I jumped down to verse 12.
Oh, okay.
I circled it
Gotcha.
when you were reading.
Okay.
So, you know, he's just a regular guy. They could just live a regular life, and they don't have to go through all this, you know, jail time and persecution and people talking about them behind their back and becoming an enemy of the state and all this kind of stuff. I mean, Paul was he was being hated among many. The believing crowd sometimes murmured against him. The non-believers many times wanted to, you know, stone him, and they did, and jail him, and eventually they beheaded him. And I mean, he's just like between a rock and a hard place. And he said, I don't have to do any of this. I could live just a regular life, but I'm not doing it. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to do anything to hinder the gospel. You know, hinder what the gospel can do. You know, the Lord has called me to be a messenger, a preacher, and I'm just doing what the Lord has told me to do, called me to do. And anything other than that would be wrong for you, and of course, wrong in the sight of God. Okay? Anything about that? Really, it's just following your calling and not, we talked earlier in a previous chapter, I think it was chapter 7, about not being a stumbling block. And I think Paul's kind of saying here, like, I could live a regular life and indulge and just be about, you know, what we're having for dinner and this, that, and the other. And ultimately, in the long run, that would be a stumbling block. You'd be like, Paul, I thought there was a great need. I thought the hour was urgent, that you know, people were hanging in the balance of heaven and hell, and we all should really take it seriously. But it seems like all you want to do is, you know, worry about what's for dinner, start up the barbecue kind of thing, and watch football. What's going on here? And Paul's saying, well, I'm not about the leisure time. I'm not about the casual domestic life. This is like a military operation. And I'm here as a soldier, you know, standing in the gap to preach to you the unsearchable riches of Jesus Christ. Okay.
You know, I think this is actually such a practical chapter because remember when we talked a couple chapters back about widows? That was in chapter 7.
Yes.
Not just widows. It was married people. And it was like people could be married, but if they were married, they'd be focused on their family. And if they were single, they could focus more completely on the Lord. Remember that whole thing?
Yes.
Right? And so I think this is just kind of expanding on that thought. We went from that in chapter 7. Chapter 8 is talking about giving up food, and here he's talking about additional sacrificing. So, and this kind of goes with Bradley's question last night too. But the idea is that people need to look at their lives not just as something that they can do to find something that's enjoyable, some way to spend their time. I know a lot of people, not our age, because we're actually young to retire, but like people really look forward to getting to a certain age where they can retire and just lay back and chill and lay on the beach or something. I don't know. I've never really been a lay on the beach kind of person, but but anyway, but people just are looking forward to a time in their life and they can just kick back and just chill. You know what I'm saying? Just do nothing. And I got to be honest with you,
the chiller crowd.
Biblically speaking, I just don't see retirement in the Bible. You know what I mean? I really feel like, the Lord has different seasons in people's lives, and ultimately he wants us focused on him. But the point is, you have to be sacrificial in your attitude, no matter what season you're in. Because even the married folks, he said, yes, you're married, you're worried about your family, but you still have a responsibility. I think he said to be even if you have a wife, be as you don't have a wife when it comes to your relationship with the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea here is that, whatever your circumstances are, Paul set up how, he has a right to do certain things, and we have rights to do certain things, but our focus should be so much on the Lord and so much on leading others to him and how we might be a hindrance to them or not, that we look at our lives and say, you know what? Yeah, I have a right to do certain things, but I'm not going to, because I know that there are so many people out there who are, headed to hell. And I don't want them to go there because I was too lazy to give up this thing, something that I could easily give up. You know what I mean? The idea is that we have to be willing to look at our lives and see where we could, make some sacrifices. I think that's almost safe right now.
You talked about being retired.
Yeah.
All I can say about that is I definitely know a little something about that, though. Because yesterday I was tired. And it didn't go away. Today I'm retired. And I'm afraid that tomorrow I'll be retired again. You follow that one?
I apologize for the dad jokes.
I'm going to continue on verse 13.
Do it.
Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things live of the things of the temple? Mm-hmm. And they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is how they are provided for. Mm-hmm. This is how they live. They take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. You remember the priests in the Old Testament. They were taken care of inside the temple and everything. The Lord took care of them. Mm-hmm. They did the work, the ministry work for the people, and the Lord took care of them, with the sacrifices and such. Mm-hmm. And it goes on from there to a modern example of New Testament theology, verse 14. Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. The thought I have is that, that the Lord ordained it. The Lord has already said, this is how I'm working today. Mm-hmm. Okay. The priests in the Old Testament, how did they live? How did they eat? How were they cared for? They didn't go down and work a job at Starbucks. How did they get money? How did they earn? How did they have food on the dinner table? It's because they served the Lord. They did the work of God there at the temple, and the Lord organized the sacrificial system in the Old Testament. One of the things is to take care of the priest and his sons and his family. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he says, just like that, even so hath the Lord ordained today that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. Gospel preaching, living, you don't have to worry. God has said, hey, I'll take care of you. There are a lot of people, and all of us, those of us who work just regular jobs, you should do that job for the Lord, as unto the Lord. All jobs are sacred because God gives it to you. But then you have some in this world that step out, evangelists and such like that, a Billy Graham type. And instead of working down the street at the restaurant, he went on the road and preached the gospel for decades. And you think, how in the world did he survive? How in the world did he eat and feed his family? Well, this chapter or this verse right here explains to me that the Lord has ordained it, that those which preach the gospel shall live of the gospel, that God takes care of his preachers. God takes care of his ministers. I remember a preacher saying one time that somebody asked him, he said, they didn't know that he was a preacher. And they asked him, they said, well, what do you do for a living? And he says, well, I don't do anything for a living. He says, I work for God and God takes care of my living, and you get what I'm saying. It really goes along with this verse. A person should preach the gospel and just trust that God is going to take care of you. He is going to, God is a God who meets needs. And and he does that today. He does that today in just in the States here. Many people start a little church and you think, how in the world are they going to survive? Well, you start preaching the gospel, you start taking care of people, meeting needs and evangelizing, discipling, and doing the work of God. And God can take care of a pastor and his family. God can take care of the church. God can take care of everybody associated with the work of God. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that. I know a lot of us like to make sure we have all of our T's crossed and I's dotted and everything, to make sure we have money in the bank account and this, that, and the other. In case something happens, we have something saved for a rainy day. But, God is a God, not just of the rainy day, of the great storms and such. I mean, God can supply needs during the worst of times and the best of times. And we really don't have to worry.
Shauna said she's been thinking about Ricky lately. And she's her words, what a great inspiration he is, doing God's will and going where God is directing him to. And I just have to say, as his mom, when he left our house at 19 with no money, no paycheck, and just the car, I didn't know how the Lord was going to take care of him, but I just trusted the Lord. I really honestly felt like he was going where the Lord was leading him. And I just trusted the Lord that he would take care of him. And what's really neat about that? At the time when Ricky left our house, he had to eat gluten-free. I was really worried about his diet. I was really worried about, how he was going to take care of himself. He's only 19 years old. And he drove across the country, and he did all those things. And the Lord provided for him, provided him a wife, took care of his health. His health improved significantly. Like, he doesn't even have to eat gluten-free. He can eat anything now. It's crazy. And has continued to do so, because even through COVID and all of the things with that, he was provided for. They had a home. Now they have a ministry job provided for. They're just serving the Lord, and they are all taken care of, everything. And Ricky is just, doing what the Lord would have him to do, but it's really the Lord who's faithful in providing. But seeing it play out in his life has been an encouragement to me, because it's really easy as his mom to worry. You know what I mean? But it's not so much Ricky. I think Ricky's just, just plowing along, doing what he does. But it's really amazing to see God's faithfulness to Ricky in the midst of all that. And then I was thinking too, Shakima, Shakima, she's been to the house. Shakima has a YouTube channel called One Mom, Two Girls, Two Boys, 8 in all. And she posted something today. Now, Shakima's a single mom who has children. She homeschools. She also teaches public school. And she has a ministry also to ladies. And she is very interested in sharing the gospel. She does it all the time. And Shakima posted today that she had an unexpected bill come in yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And she reached into her pocketbook, and her mother passed away 2 years ago. And she found a card somebody had given to her, apparently 2 years ago, with the amount of money that she needed to pay for this unexpected bill.
Mm-hmm.
And just as people, when Rick was in Bible college, all these people in Bible college, a lot of them were just dedicated to serving the Lord. That's why they were in Bible college. And all the time, the Lord was blessing people. I mean, just giving them amazing things. People that we knew when Rick was in Bible college, they got free cars. Like, who gets a free car? They got free furniture. They all kinds of stuff. And again, it was just happening all around us. And I remember at the time thinking, I want a free car. Like, what is this? And you know what's funny? Before Rick left Bible college, we got a free car. And it was just totally unexpected, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is that when you start to follow the Lord, sometimes you think, wow, it's great that all those things happen, but you don't expect them to happen to you. You know what I mean? But as you go follow the Lord and you're faithful, you see him give and give and give. You know, the verse that says, what does it say about when he gives something? I think it's Malachi 3 where he says, talking about tithes, giving tithes, but it's the same principle that if you follow the Lord, he's going to generously return it to you, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But he says he's going to pour you out a blessing that there won't be room enough to receive.
That's it.
That's what it says. There's another one that says press down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's another thing. But anyway, but the idea is just that the Lord is able to take care of his people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times he uses his other people to care for the people who are about ministry.
Yeah.
But sometimes he just does it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Miraculously.
You know, I just say it now, just in case someone is thinking something different. This is not about something that we hear today being taught and preached in some churches, like a prosperity gospel and things like that.
Talking about needs being met.
Needs. Mm-hmm. And we are needy people, mm-hmm. spiritually and physically. And the thing is that the Lord can just meet needs, period. And he wants to. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a car, transportation, money for a bill, things like that. Do you know there's something that happens every day that we all experience, and we don't even notice it many times? The Lord meets needs that go even on even a more grander scale than transportation and food on a dinner table. You know, none of us have the energy to get up in the morning. I don't make my own energy. The Lord gives me the energy, called his grace, every morning to get out of bed. The grace, the power of God to get out of bed. He strengthens my muscles and gets me up, and then, and it gets me a full breath of air and such. And, I didn't make the air. I didn't make the lungs that hold the air. Mm-hmm. I don't beat my own heart. The Bible says that by him, all things consist. Everything's held together by God. The fact that you could get up in the morning and go about your day shows that God has provided for you what you need to just be alive and to just do anything and everything. And the thing is that we have a choice that we need to do those things for the Lord. Lord, you've given me all this to just live and be. Now let me do it for you. If the Lord can give us energy and a beating heart and air in our lungs, I mean, that's really
miraculous.
That's something only a creator can do. Mm-hmm. What's transportation? What's a hamburger? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Seriously, sometimes we get so shocked over a surprise $100 for a bill, but we don't even realize that a beating heart is like more mysterious and wonderful. And the Lord does that all the time. So, and I'm not trying to push aside the blessing of $100 for a bill, but what I'm saying is that the Lord is constantly doing stuff that we can't do for ourselves, and many times we just don't notice it. God is a providing God. He takes care of us all the time. Like the verses I read last night, I think it was from Matthew. He sends rain on the just and the unjust. He takes care of everybody. Even the lost crowd tonight is being taken care of by a creator that they refuse to accept. That just shows how wonderful God truly is. That he even loves the wicked and the unbelieving and the unjust.
So Paul in verse 15, he is acknowledging that he has a right to these things, to ask them for their help. But he has the faith that we were just talking about, that the Lord is going to provide, right? So he says, I have used none of those things. He hadn't asked him for anything. He didn't ask him for a dime. He's not trying to get them to give to him, right? Because he wants to make sure that even if he has some even if he's needy, it says, I have nothing to glory of, for necessities laid upon me. Yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. Like, he's like, I'm just preaching the gospel because what I got to do. Right? He's like, I don't end up with woe or necessity unless I'm not doing my job. If I'm not preaching the gospel, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then I got woe. Then I got necessity. But other than that, I don't need to worry about what you guys are giving me. The Lord's taking care of me and I'm good. Right? He says,
may I point out something? The whole church as a whole, every believer has been given the mission to share the gospel with this world. And believers who know it to be true and still don't do it, truly we can say woe unto us. One of these days we're going to stand before the Lord, all of us, myself included, and really we're going to probably come to terms with the fact of how many missed opportunities we had to share the gospel. And it's really heartbreaking. We should do something about it today while we have the opportunities, rather than regret them in heaven. Woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. And let me also say that God is in control. He's sovereign. But like sometimes people think that man doesn't have a choice. Right here, Paul is explaining he has a choice. Woe unto me if I don't preach the gospel. There are places in other epistles and such where Paul refers to himself as a servant of Christ. I'm a slave to the Lord, right? He's in control of me. However, even though God is his master and he's in control, Paul still has a choice. A little different than what we see played out in history here in our planet, on our world, with all these stories of slavery and such. But with the Lord, we're bought with a price. We're not our own. We're a slave to Christ. Yet God still, in his grace and mercy, gives us a choice. He says, I'm your master. You are mine, but I'm still giving you a choice. I want you to serve me, and I want you to do this for me. I love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to go along with you. You're not by yourself. I'm right there with you, and you are going to live a blessed life. When you get to heaven, I'm going to reward you for your service. I mean, that's a good master, folks. And we all should eagerly serve the Lord because he's promised good to us. But he still gives them a choice. Even Paul, the great apostle, had a choice. He could say, I'm not going to do it. He acknowledges that it would be woe unto me. It's not going to be good if I don't. But I still have that choice. Okay? So I just want to bring that up. God is sovereign. He's in control. But all of us have a choice. You have a choice whether or not to be saved or not. You have a choice whether or not, as a Christian, to obey the Lord or not. We all have a choice. Okay? And that does make us different than the animal kingdom, because animals don't have a choice. They just do what they do. Okay? They can't choose. A dog cannot choose to be a cat. Okay? But we can choose what we're going to do. Okay.
Verse 17 continues the thought of having a choice, because he says, for if I do this willingly, meaning preach the gospel, I have a reward. But against my will, then I'm just doing the job I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? I'm just doing my duty, because there are people who are like, all about preaching the gospel. And there are other people who are just like, all right, well, let's go get this over with. You know what I mean? And that's not the right attitude. But if they're doing it, joyfully, voluntarily, there's a reward that comes with it. And if not, they're just doing their duty. They don't get anything out of it. But he says, again, just doing their duty. So what's my reward? Well, when I preach the gospel, I'm doing it without charge, that I don't abuse my power. He's not charging anybody to hear this. Believe it or not, there are churches that charge people. I say churches loosely, religious groups that charge to be membership. When people want to give and they tithe and they do so willingly, good. When a church charges, that's not the appropriate way to do things. And exactly why what Paul was saying here, you don't want it to get to be an abuse of power. He wants the focus to be on the gospel, not on the financial reward from it. So Paul, that's the end of that. And then he talks about this idea of him making himself a servant to all, how he makes himself approachable by everyone because he wants to be able to talk to everyone where they are. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that section.
Yeah.
It's verses 19 to 23.
This section's quite evangelistic.
Well, the whole thing is really. I mean, the whole point of sacrificing your own will is so that others could be saved.
It is, but what I meant was, if I was going to perhaps preach a sermon, and I was it was going to be a soul winning, witnessing, evangelizing, reaching out to this lost world and telling this lost world about Christ's sermon to Christians, you Christians. If I was going to address a group of believers and I was going to try to encourage them, motivate them to reach this world for Christ, I may use this text. Okay, 19 and so on, I guess down to verse 23 even, and probably the rest of the chapter. But for though I be free, let me say that Paul, again, he's free. Okay, free from all men. When the Lord saves you, he sanctifies, he sets you apart. You are now bound to the Lord, and that's not a bad thing, folks. Okay, again, he loves you, he takes care of you, he means good to you. Okay, but he sets you apart. You're not bound to man now. Okay, you can step outside from the culture and the way the world lives, and you can say, you know what, I'm not with that. That group over there, they're ungodly. They don't love the Lord. They're not living for the Lord. Okay, I live on this planet, but I don't have to associate with what they associate with. I don't have to go there. I don't have to do those things. I am set apart from that for God. Okay, Paul says I'm